Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Trek Mission Log. I am very glad that you are here. My name is Jason Gilbert, and we are taking our own little trek through every Star Trek adventure ever filmed, analyzing and reviewing them for you. I give a special hello to all my subscribers and to my new subscribers this past week. Welcome. I'm very glad that you're here. If you enjoy this content, would you be willing to hit the subscribe button down below? It would really help me out immensely, and it would really help my channel out immensely. Also, I am on Instagram. We can interact there. Just type in @TrekMissionLog and you'll find me there. Now today I'm going to be reviewing the original series, Season 1, Episode 21, titled Court Martial. It aired on February the 2nd, 1967. The episode was written by Dan M. Mankiewicz and Stephen W. Cabaters. It was directed by Mark Daniels and produced by Gene L. Kuhn. So check out this cool piece of Trek trivia, and in just a moment we'll dive into this story. In a captain's log, Kirk said that they have been through an ion storm and the ship is heavily damaged. Through unfortunate circumstances, a member of his crew named Finney is now dead. They are at Starbase 11 for repairs, and a full damage report has been sent to the commander of the starbase, Commodore Stone. Kirk calls up to the ship to ask where Spock was with the computer log extract. Now, while he was waiting for Spock to get there, he talked about the death of Finney, how he placed the ship in yellow alert, and repeatedly asked Finney to leave the pod. Finally, he had to hit the red alert and jettison the pod while Finney was still in there to save the ship. Spock finally beams down and looks distraught. The Commodore took the disk and put it in his computer. A young lady walks in and immediately begins accusing Kirk of killing her father. Spock accompanies her out of the room. Stone, after reading the information on the disk, says that the report shows that Kirk jettisoned the pod before he issued red alert and accused Kirk of committing willful perjury. Kirk is now confined to the starbase until an inquiry is convened, which will determine if Kirk has to go through a court martial. We then fade into the title sequence. While the starbase personnel gets ready for the inquiry, Kirk is confined to the base, and so naturally, he and McCoy go to the bar. Now, the people there have heard about the death of Finney, of course, and with their comments and with accusatory glares, they are causing trouble for Kirk. The inquiry begins. It is Commodore Stone questioning Kirk in the presence of a computer that is recording everything. Now, Kirk talks about his troubled past relationship with Finney. In the past, when Kirk was under him, he reported some wrongdoing on Finney's part, and as a result, it caused Finney to be overlooked for command. Kirk also talked about the ion storm. The Enterprise picked up the storm ahead and sent Finney into a pod connected to the ship to record data about the storm. And when asked why Finney was chosen, Kirk said simply because he was at the top of the duty roster. Kirk tells how he issued a yellow alert and signaled Finney to leave the pod. Kirk then issued a red alert and gave Finney every opportunity to leave before Kirk had to jettison the pod. However, the ship's log shows that the pod was jettisoned while they were still in yellow alert. Stone wants Kirk to admit that he was exhausted from being in deep space for so long, so that the charges can be lessened and that this doesn't go into a trial. He would then get a ground assignment. Kirk refuses and demands a court-martial to prove his innocence. Back at the Starbase bar, Kirk meets an old girlfriend. They enjoy a quiet drink together. She is a lawyer and encouraged him to find a good lawyer. He asked if she could help him, and she said she can't because she had been assigned to prosecute him. She recommended a lawyer named Samuel T. Cogley. Kirk goes to his quarters, and Cogley is already there. Cogley indicates his disdain of computers and shows his love for books. He accepts Kirk's case and agrees to defend him. Court-martial begins. As the computer reads the charges, we notice that Spock, McCoy, Finney's daughter Jamie, and an Oriental lady are all present. When asked what the defendant pleads, Kirk said, "Not guilty." The prosecution calls its first witness, Spock. Now, she asks him about his knowledge of computers. He said he knows all about them. He indicated that he had run all sorts of diagnostics on the ship's computers and found nothing wrong, but he said that nevertheless the computer is inaccurate. He speaks to the character of Captain Kirk. He said that Kirk does not react out of panic or malice, and when prompted to cross-examine, Cogley has no questions for Spock. The next witness is the Oriental lady whose name eludes me at the moment. She is the personnel officer whom we have never seen before. She indicated Kirk's troubled past with Finney, and when Kirk reported whatever Finney had done, it caused a permanent black mark on Finney's record. When prompted to cross-examine, Cogley had no questions. McCoy then gets called to the stand, and he is an expert on the psychology of stress on individuals in closed quarters on long missions in deep space. That was a mouthful. When asked if it were possible that Kirk was going through space exhaustion, Kirk said no. When asked if it were possible for Finney to hate Kirk, he answered yes. And when asked if it is possible for someone who is hated to hate the person back, McCoy said it is possible, but not for Kirk. Cogley again refuses to cross-examine. Cogley finally speaks, and he calls Kirk to the stand. The computer recites a long list of Kirk's achievements and accolades, and Cogley asked, despite what the machine said, was there a red alert when Kirk jettisoned the pod? And Kirk answered yes. Cogley asked Kirk to tell the court about it, and so he relayed the whole story that he relayed earlier to Commodore Stone, which I won't go through again. He adamantly said he did not jettison the pod prematurely. He did exactly how he was trained, and if he had to do it again, he would do it by the book exactly as he had done this time. He would do anything to save his ship because nothing is more important than his ship. The prosecution then produces video evidence of the events. It shows that Kirk issued the yellow alert, and then that he jettisoned the pod while the ship was in yellow alert before red alert. Kirk and Cogley look completely stunned, and Kirk stood up and said, "That's not the way it happened." Kirk is now in a private conference with his lawyer. Cogley had to confess that because of that video evidence, Kirk may have buckled under the pressure of the situation. Kirk adamantly stated that is not what happened. He calls up to Spock, who is back on the Enterprise. Spock said that he tested the bridge recorder and nothing is wrong. Kirk said that there's one redeeming thing in all of this, and that is that Spock may be able to beat his new captain at chess. Spock raises an eyebrow and says, "Chess." Jamie, Finney's daughter, comes in and says to Cogley he has to stop this trial and make Kirk take a ground assignment. She realizes that her father's death is not Kirk's fault. She said that ruining Jim was not the answer, which is a complete change of heart from the beginning of the episode. Cogley said it's commendable considering the video she just witnessed of Kirk's guilt. Something fishy is going on. Now, on the ship, Spock is playing chess against a computer. McCoy walks in angry, and he accuses Spock of being cold-blooded, at which point Spock said, "Thank you." He then indicated that he had beat the computer 4 times. He told McCoy that months ago he programmed the computer to play chess. Because he made the program, when playing chess against the computer, it would be like playing chess against himself. The best he could have come up with was a stalemate. Yet, right there in front of McCoy, he beat the program a 5th time, meaning that someone has tampered with the computers. He and McCoy decide to beam down. As the court-martial reconvenes, Spock and McCoy come running in. They whisper to Cogley and to Kirk about what had just transpired. And Cogley said that new evidence has been brought to his attention. And he said that Kirk has a right to face his accuser, in this case, the ship's computer. He asked that the court be reconvened on the Enterprise. On the ship, the court-martial proceeds. Now, under oath, Spock testifies that he won 5 games of chess against the computer, which he himself programmed. He should have only stalemated, but he won 5 times, indicating that someone either accidentally or deliberately adjusted the programming of the computer. When asked who aboard the Enterprise could do such a thing, he replied that only he, Kirk, and Finney could have done it. I would think Scotty would have the knowledge as well, but Scotty was nowhere to be found in this story. Cogley asked Kirk about what he did after they passed through the ion storm, and Kirk said he conducted a Phase 1 search to find the man who had died, but no body was recovered. Cogley then asked if a man could evade such a search. And with curious looks all around, Cogley then said that he believes Finney is still alive. The court-martial is now reconvened on the bridge. Cogley is conducting an experiment. Everyone except the bridge crew and 1 transporter officer must leave the ship. Even Cogley left the ship on a matter of grave importance to the case. Kirk said that they are using the ship's sensors to hear every heartbeat on the ship. Because everyone is off the ship except for the people immediately on the bridge and the 1 transporter officer, there are a few heartbeats. McCoy has a device in his hand that looks like a microphone that can eliminate every heartbeat from the sound. He does that for all the people on the bridge. Spock eliminates the heartbeat of the transporter officer. There is still 1 heartbeat remaining, indicating that Finney is alive and is in hiding. Commodore Stone can't believe it. Kirk orders the heartbeat localized. It is on B deck, in or near engineering. Kirk proceeds to search for Finney, and he goes into engineering and he hears Finney's voice. Finney tells Kirk of how he robbed him of his own command. Finney then sneaks up behind Kirk and points a phaser at him and said that Kirk ruined him. He then said he tapped out the primary energy circuits of the ship and left the Enterprise for dead. And the Enterprise indeed is losing orbit above the starbase. Finney said he's going to kill them all as he blames them all for conspiring against him. Kirk then told Finney that his daughter is aboard the ship and that she would die as well. Finney is very angry and very regretful at the same time. So Kirk rushes him and tries to take the phaser away, and it turns into an all-out brawl. Kirk wins. Finney tells him where he sabotaged the circuits. We then see Kirk climbing into a Jeffries tube to repair it. Kirk makes the repairs. The ship's power is restored. As the bridge crew breathes a sigh of relief, Commodore Stone rules the case dismissed with no objection from the prosecution. Kirk then says goodbye to his old girlfriend, the prosecuting lawyer, as only James T. Kirk can. All right, Kirk sits on his chair and said to Spock and McCoy, who observed the kiss, that she was a very good lawyer. They nod in agreement. And as the credits roll, the Enterprise sails away to their next mission. This episode, Court Martial, in my opinion, is an episode that is merely there to compete with other TV episodes at the time. Crime dramas were very popular on television during that time. This was Star Trek's outing as a crime drama in space. There were a few elements that I really liked and a whole pile that I didn't. So let's start with the good stuff. Overall, I felt the story was good. Even though space is the final frontier, it is not exempt from criminal activity. And so in a multi-planet, multi-world, multi-species space federation, laws would need to be in place and courts would need to be convened. The court-martial is a military and naval court that judges crimes committed in the different branches of the military, and so it was interesting seeing this from a futuristic standpoint. And so I felt that it was a good effort here. Kirk getting accused of a crime he didn't commit, and them trying to figure out what happened. It had an element of mystery to it, a classic whodunit, but in space. Now, another good thing going for this episode is that, to my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected, this is the first time on screen that an African American was given a command position. And it was great to see a show in the midst of tough times on Earth with race riots and such, of people getting along. The role of Commodore Stone was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Spock's intuition once again won the victory, and I love that about his character. He thinks, and it got his friend and captain exonerated. Those were all elements that I really loved about this episode. Now for the elements that I didn't like. Firstly, the editing. Kirk is wearing the flowery puke green top when meeting with the Commodore, yet when he leaves to go to the bar, he's in his uniform tunic, and this switch happens several times throughout this episode. I find this kind of stuff very, very distracting, and so they lost points there. Another instance is when Kirk was talking about using the ship's power to magnify the sound of everyone's heartbeats. He said that the Enterprise can magnify the sound by a factor of 1 to the 4th power. Okay, so do the math with me. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. Maybe he meant to say 10 to the 4th power, but in any case, they lost points there. Another element is when Cogley leaves to go on an errand of great importance to the case, and then we never see or hear from him again. That's the end of him as the case goes on without him, and in my opinion, they lose points there as well. Also, the fight scene between Kirk and Finney was terrible. The close-up scenes were very good, but when they pan out, it is clearly seen that the stunt doubles of these actors, who look nothing like these actors, were doing the fight, and they wanted us to believe it was Kirk and Finney. pretty cheesy in my opinion, and so they lost points there as well. Finally, the whole ensemble wasn't present. Sulu and Scotty were not there. Uhura was there very, very briefly. We still have yet to meet Chekhov. Now, we just came through a long string of absolutely incredible Star Trek episodes, and so a disappointing one was due, and this is it. a good effort, but it lacked in so many ways, and because of this, I give Court Martial 2 out of 5 Starfleet insignias for awesomeness. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of Trek Mission Log, and I hope that you enjoyed this review and that you found it helpful to you. I would love to hear from you, so please feel free to leave a comment below. Tell me things about this episode that you liked or didn't like, or even if you think my assessment is out to lunch. I would love to hear from you. All I ask is that we remain respectful of each other and that we keep the comments profanity free. Next week, I will be reviewing an episode titled Return of the Archons, and I hope that you plan on joining me. Until next time, live long and prosper.